who is your MVP from Kansas? Getting some lot of good answers on that. We do get Ewers is still young and learning from Oklahoma. Greg, Ewers is still young and learning, but Sark will continue to make sure he has success and confidence in the OU game. I think that's one of the things that Sark is doing well with Ewers this year is figuring out that he wanted to give Ewers his confidence by getting the ball downfield and making those big plays, because everything for Sark started and ended with that the big plays and the explosive plays. That was where it was, and if you don't have those, you can't win. And when he realized, well, we can kind of get he looked, I think what he saw was the other teams doing against Texas, and he said, oh, well, we can get those. Anybody can get explosive plays. They happen, but if you're forcing them, they don't always happen. So what you need to get the rest of the game, and then the explosive plays will happen inside of that. How do we get Ewers to feel confident? We just kind of give him reads and options that he can function under and find the guy with the man. And I don't care if we really wanted this play to go this way, but instead of telling him in the meetings, hey, we're really hoping we can bust a big one, Xavier Worthy's on the outside, and him trying to force that one in, then, man, Adonai Mitchell's on the other side. And he's wide open. He's in man coverage. He's going to win that. And, there was a couple plays, and Jay Witt's open. Go get the ball to Jay Witt. He threw a couple of them off, but they worked. So I love it. I love what Ewers is doing right now, and I love how Sark is using him. Piper has said that we need the offensive line and Jay Brooks to control the clock and plus 100 yards rushing. JB for MVP. I said at the beginning of the season, we were talking about running, and it kind of concerned me that Sark kept acting like there wasn't a starting running back. And in his mind, there wasn't yet. I don't know what his game was, or we may never know what the entirety of what was going on in Sark's mind. But Sark at the beginning of the season was saying, I don't know. No one's really set themselves apart as a running back. So, and then week 1, he puts Baxter out there. He said, Jonathan Brooks should be a third-year guy. We've seen what he can do. We've seen him play. He should be the guy. But I don't know why, but the fact that he wasn't getting those reps because he wasn't getting the acknowledgement from Sark, he said, I don't know, and I don't believe he's going to be the guy. C.J. Baxter gets hurt in that Alabama game, and whatever Sark did, whether it was calculated, that he was just trying to get Jonathan Brooks to put in that little bit of extra effort, what it was, we saw him do what we asked him to do, which was step up and take the position. Don't wait for it to be yours. Take the position. And you can't say anything, but since Alabama, in the second half of the Alabama game, he has taken the running back position, and he has no signs of giving it back. So it's a huge, huge difference in game now that you say, oh, no, not that we have a running game, but we have an explosive, crazy good running game that now you have to overly prepare for. I'm sure there's some guy, Brent Venables is sitting right now and having to say, well, what are we going to pick our poison? Are we going to try and shut down the running game and let Quinn Ewers try and beat us? Before we thought, well, we have to shut down Quinn Ewers and then let the running game try and beat us. But we've seen every other team has tried that. And Jonathan Brooks starts beating him so bad, they have to come up, and then Quinn Ewers just taking what they give him, and he goes off and beats them. It's a completely different game plan this season with everything going on. But Jonathan Brooks adds a huge element that, from the bowl game last year where the running game was almost non-existent, cost Texas the game, to now, night and day difference. We get blind Longhorn fan. Did the morning show just say Brooks is Bijan and Roshan? No, he said they're pieces of them. So he said he took part of both of their games. So yeah, they did not. It is not just them, and the MVP is back spasms. That's a kind of reductive way to look at it. To say that this team, if Jalen Daniels played, that Texas would have lost or whatever. If you want to hate on Texas, hate on Texas. But I don't know if that's the case. I think when you say a guy ran for 200 yards against the defense, that might be a bigger MVP than Jalen Daniels, who could have had a good game. Like a blind or Longhorn fan, Brennan Thompson is going off against Texas and showing Sark what he missed out on. I don't believe that's going to be the case. He could have a big play, though. He could have had a good play. Brennan Thompson was good. He just wasn't ever in that world of trust that Sark is so devoted to. He really wants to trust his guy. Brennan Thompson dropped too many passes, and that will end up pushing you out. We get from Scarlett, it is RRR week. That's hard to say, too. RRR week is just as hard as the Red River rivalry. which, by the way, if you were at a bar and you want to make sure anybody's is still allowed to drink at the bar if they're not too drunk, just make them say Red River Rivalry. It's one of the reasons why Bud is one of the biggest drinks, because you can say, just give me a Bud. And Miller Lite is harder to say the drunker you get. So Bud Light, easy to say drunk. It's great marketing. It was a wonderful weekend for Texas sports. Rangers clinched, Stros clinched, Texans won, Cowboys won, and our Longhorns won. It was a great weekend. I enjoyed it, and as an Astros fan, I enjoyed it because that Sunday, watching the Cowboys blown away from it, so I could focus somewhat on the from the Astros and Rangers. It was a lot of fun. This year's Horns look to get stronger as the game progresses instead of struggling to finish or even maintain intensity. That is a lot of what it is that rotation on the defense, I think, is helping a lot with Sark. That damn sideways screen against OK will go for negative yards and 2 turnovers. I hate that play. I'm not a huge fan of it either. I know he's trying to set it up because he's trying to set other things up, and he loves the two-way pass on that as well and seeing if it's there. But I'm not a huge fan of it. I think he goes to it too much. And my dad even texted me that. He's like, why does he keep running this play? I'm like, I get what he's doing, but you don't need to do it as much as he's doing it. Man, I'm not going to lie. From Coach Cornnuts, man, I'm not going to lie. I'm super excited about the Texans again. My gut said D'Amico Ryans was the right guy, but it was hard to believe it first. Love the way the team is playing. Hoping they only get back better when some guys get back from injury. I'm close to putting $100 on them to win the AFC South because nobody else there is going to run away with it right now. Another texter, impressive job by D'Amico Ryans, Texans defense, and how well rookie quarterback CJ Stroud is playing despite the injuries on O-line. If you look at the AFC South right now, we'll get into a little NFL. We'll get back to your text in just a second. If you look at the AFC South right now, I just saw a tweet about it, which I just retweeted. If you follow me on Twitter at It's Patrick Davis, you can find it there. But basically showing the AFC South is very on brand. Everybody is 2-2, and if you look at the point differentials of most of these teams, the point differential of points scored and points against for these teams through 4 weeks is all within 3 points, except for the Texans. The Texans have actually pulled away from that by putting up some big numbers. The Texans are playing really impressive. They get that 30-6 win over the Steelers. They're starting to figure out how to use Dameon Pierce in this lineup a lot more. Bobby Slowick's progression is one of the more impressive things about this because Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator that came over from San Francisco, and I talked about this on Ball Don't Lie with Rod, that what we were worried about with the Texans is you're worried about that this coaching staff basically came in with no experience. Everyone was doing the biggest job they'd ever done. And so now the Texans are starting to figure out some of those things. You know, they're dealing with a ton of injuries. They had a third stringer offensive lineman at 4 of the 5 positions. Shaq Mason, God bless him, is the only guy out there who is a original starter, the guy they traded for. So, you know, it's been a crazy year of offensive line and moving around, but Bobby Slowick is learning very quickly of how to deal with those things, moving stuff around, putting different, massive credit to the wide receivers. If you watch a game and wide receivers blocking and having to get into this and going to the outside where you're letting guys come in on the inside and trying to funnel guys through the middle more as run blockers, and then on the outside, relying on wide receivers to break some of these plays open. That's how they're getting some of these runs. It's just been a masterful job to try and get them ready. And CJ Stroud right now is playing like clearly the rookie of the year front runner, but got to give Texans fans a ton of hope. D'Amico Ryans, I think, has done a great job. J.J. Watt was in town this weekend being put in the Ring of Honor, and he was talking about how D'Amico Ryans not only has this massive defensive knowledge, but a lot of times guys that have that have a hard time transferring that knowledge to the players that are on the field of how do you get them to make the reads and how do you get them to step up and play it a better way. And he's been able to do that. So defensively, this team is stepping up. We knew when Jalen Petrie came back that it was going to help out with Ward and Petrie back there, Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie as the safeties. It was going to shore up this secondary a lot. You hope Stingley's able to come back, and this secondary could be something pretty special for the Texans. But yeah, definitely exciting to see them come out. The Steelers just didn't look good in that game ever, and they're dealing with their own stuff. But I wouldn't discount the Texans. They don't have that hard of a schedule. You're playing against the AFC South, which isn't great. You're playing against some other, divisions that aren't great. You don't have the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. You can come out of this and win 6 games, I think. I think 5 or 6 games is not unbelievable. Now, some people are saying AFC South. I'm not sure if they're there yet. You'd have to see them be able to sustain this type of play. I'm not sure they're there yet, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. Chief Engineer, it's rare 2 top picks work out. Will Anderson and CJ Stroud showing out. I agree with you. That is something that's crazy that, you gave up a lot for those picks, but they seem to be working out right now. Nick Caserio saving his job. The Popcorn Man is just checking in to say Texas OU week and OU still sucks. I appreciate that. It is 6-18 and OU still sucks. Both lines is what you're giving the MVP from Mr. Carolina. Both offensive and defensive line. Yeah, the lines are playing great right now. We see that with Jonathan Brooks, of course, going for 218. You can't say that the offensive line is not playing up to par, or the defensive line when you're stopping Kansas from what they're doing. You need to be physical. How many all have the oldest cliche in the book? You start winning games at the line, and coaches try and get away from that when they can't recruit the line. The Pancake Factory and now the defensive line, you're really starting to build that up. And I think Sark has done a great job with, kind of figuring out the type of players he wants. It was born the Red River Shootout, and it will die the Red River Shootout. None of it matters. It's Texas OU. That's what I call it. I call it Texas OU because that's easier to say. That's what it is. I know they want to call it. I never called it the Red River Shootout either, by the way. I never needed the fancy name for it because I cared about what was on there. I know they want to do it it's all for marketing. So it's the so-and-so Red River rivalry or so-and-so Red River Shootout. I'm not going to say the name of that, then I don't got to say the other thing. It's called Texas OU. We don't got to give it a fancy name. I know they want to make it. Look, the best name there is for all of those, the best name, and by the way, you can send in what you think the best name is for a rivalry game. You can send that in. I'd love to hear if you have a better one. I know what the best one in my mind is Bedlam. And that's for all their events. It's not just one game, but it's Bedlam. It's just a great name. It's one word. It means like craziness and all. I'm all for it. Bedlam is the best for me. Just one word. Just give me one word that's easy to say. I like that. So if you had a better rivalry name, or if you want to rename the Red River rivalry, because I can't even say it now, 512-447-3776. Send that in. I appreciate it. Jonathan Brooks resembles of Jamal Charles at times. I could see that in the years Horns look to get stronger as game progresses instead of struggling to finish. Yeah, Brooks does resemble Jamal Charles. He resembles a lot of guys. He has a lot of pieces of a lot of players, and that's what Aaron was saying earlier. It's pieces of Bijan, pieces of Roshan. It looks like he's got a lot of different pieces, and it's scary to think that if he ever finally puts it together to have his own identity. But right now, I don't know how much better you could expect Jonathan Brooks to be playing, just putting all these pieces together and becoming this kind of Megatron of all these players. He's not Bijan of everything. He's not Roshan of everything Roshan could do. He's not everything Jamal Charles could do, but he's putting those pieces together and looks really, really good. I feel that, Blind Longer fan, I feel Sark is still holding back some wrinkles that he will unleash on Oklahoma, like more attempts at punt blocking. Yes, the punt blocking has been disappointing. You want to see more of that. I think he's been playing it safe in the first half because he doesn't want to give up a big penalty and get behind, which I get. You don't want to kind of go for it, give him a first down, score a touchdown, and now you're down, you're trying to fight back, and it just kind of, really the defense doesn't like it because now their, special teams screwed it up. And then in the second half, by the time they get to the point where you can kind of go for it, they put up those 21 points so fast that all of a sudden you don't want to go for it because now it's run up the score. So I think that there's only been like 3 or 4 punts where he really feels like he could go for it, and they've kind of gone for some of them, but I do want to see one as well. I think last year you had to go for it more because you just weren't playing as well as you were this year. Daydrinker77 says Sark for MVP. He made adjustments and got the job done in the second half. I like that. I'd still give it to Jonathan Brooks because if Jonathan Brooks doesn't run as well as he does, that game plan doesn't work as well. And also because Sark refused to run the ball in the red zone over and over until the fourth quarter, until the third and fourth quarter. If he would have done that in the first half, we could have been even quicker.